Hey everybody, this is Draymond. Today we have a 6-game college basketball slate for you. Before I get started, can you just smash that like and subscribe button? Also, make sure to go out and vote for whichever of the silly people that are running for president that you want to win. Make sure to go vote for them or they won't win, so it'll be on you. So let's go ahead and get in this slate. We have a pretty interesting slate today. We have a bunch of uh, games where it's a kind of a good team versus a subpar team, but we do have one game that isn't that way, and that is the FIU Rice game. This is definitely going to be a game that you can utilize in fantasy aspect, as it also has one of the highest totals on the slate. Most of the other games are going to be lopsided affairs for the most part, but the UC Davis Washington game is also a game that has some potential for the lower quality team to bend the higher quality team. So let's keep that in mind today. Let's go ahead and look at our teams here, though. We'll start with the FIU Rice game, and we'll start with FIU. Now, FIU has one guy that is questionable in Gittins. That does make me a little concerned there, as he's probably their top player. But Brewer is going to come in with the best usage on this team, and he's going to be a guy that I think you have to consider rostering today. He looks like a fantastic option, and he's going to have one of the better options on the team, especially if Gittins ends up getting rolled out. If we look at other players on that team, Abar has a little bit of upside today, but probably a little bit riskier. Looking at Rice, Broadeneau is going to be the top play from the team, and he's probably going to be one of the best plays on this entire slate. So to keep that in mind, he's going to be a fantastic play. He's a little bit pricier than I'd like, but he's definitely capable. Amos and Powell also potential today. Let's see, sorry about that. Powell for Rice there at $5,100. He's also in play a little bit. I would also look at Lipscomb being a guy that has some potential on this team. He's a cheap play at $4,000. He's not a must play, but he's definitely somebody you could look at as a conservative option on this one. Where'd he go? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking through. Sorry, I didn't mean Lipscomb. I mean Smith, Jay Smith here. Sorry, $900. I apologize. Anyhow, so those are the top guys there. Houstonick is also interesting for Rice, but he is a little bit risky. His price point a little bit too high. But I do think that he's going to have some ability. He just won't have a ton of usage in this game. Looking at the UNO Kansas State game, so New Orleans is favored to lose this game by 28 points. There's not too much there we like, as everybody seems a little bit overpriced for this game. Vincent, if you were going to use anybody, would be the top play from the team, but I don't really expect him to pay off here either. And then there's some of their cheap plays like Henry, White, and Jones are going to be the guys that have. Where is he? 32. Okay, will be the guys that have the most potential to be viable options there for them. Looking at Kansas State, though, we do have some guys here that have some potential. McDaniel, he's a little bit overpriced, and Hawkins is a little bit overpriced, but Hawkins is a better play today than McDaniel, as he's a little bit cheaper and has just as much usage and potential here. I think he's in a good spot. I think that the projections in a lot of places are going to look Uganu and Yenzo because he started at Kentucky last year. As a Kentucky fan, I can tell you that he's probably going to struggle in this offense, especially with Nungesson being ahead of him for the center position. If he does end up playing and starting, then that would be interesting. But at his price point, $4,300, but he's going to struggle to pay off of most nights. CJ Jones is also somewhat interesting for this team, but he's pretty risky. And then Anchor is kind of one-off guy that you could use as kind of a utility player if you have nobody else. Looking at Betham Cookman and Texas Tech, this should be a pretty lopsided game. However, I do note that some of the Betham Cookman guys have some potential, as we have they not to really huge games, but they can definitely eclipse their price points. I think that Freeman and Jones here at $3,500 and $3,800 are mispriced here. I think both these guys are going to have a lot of opportunity. With Freeman being the top tier guy, he's going to get a lot of opportunity. He's going to get a lot of usage in this one, and I think he's in a good spot. Even though it's a tough situation, he's going to have some opportunity to eclipse this $3,500 price tag Jones may not have quite as much potential as Freeman, but he's definitely got some utility here, and he should get some run as well. Looking at some other guys here, I think Ward Jr. up here at $6,800 and Thomas definitely have some contrarian elements, but they're definitely high risk, high reward in this situation. Uh, should note that Texas Tech tends to be one of the teams that slows the game down a little bit more, and that is going to hurt their potential today because their guys are all overpriced. If I was going to use anybody from this team, it would be McMillan. But honestly, none of these guys look particularly great. Williams is also probably a top tier option, but he's just way overpriced for this potential here on this particular slate because I don't expect these guys to play a full complement of minutes today either. Looking at Idaho State and Arizona State, this is also a very lopsided game. There's nothing redeemable about Idaho State in this game, and so I'm pretty much avoiding that whole team because they're all overpriced. Looking at Arizona State, however, we do like Mason for Idaho State, or for Arizona State, rather. He does have a tough-ish matchup, but he's going to have a lot of potential to pay off at this price point. I don't think he's a core play, but he's definitely up there as one of the decent plays on the slate. And I do expect Arizona State to do well with him in that middle of the slate here, and he can play guard here. So looking at Miller, he's also in play, though he's a little bit more expensive. He's definitely capable, though, and he's definitely worth a look here, but he's a little bit riskier. Quintance is going to be an interesting play as a freshman, but I do think he has some potential to be good, but I don't know if the price point is a little bit too high for him today. I would also avoid BJ Freeman and Jihad here. I don't think either of those guys have a lot of potential on this slate to be top tier scoring guys at least. Looking at Arkansas State or Central Arkansas and BYU rather. For Central Arkansas, we do have one guy at the top in Cato who is capable, though I do think he's going to struggle in this one, even though he does have a lot of potential today. Um, you could even look at Robinson for Central Arkansas, Ty Robinson. I don't know if he's going to get a ton of minutes, but it does look like he's going to have a role, so he could be interesting here at least dirt cheap. But I don't think you have to use him today. But if we look at BYU, we do like Baker decent amount. He's definitely a cheap play that can fit in here. He didn't play much last season because he got hurt at the early parts of the year, but I look for him to be a capable option here as a role player that should get a lot of opportunity in this game. Looking at the other options though, Hall and Trayor, I think both these guys will end up playing, but it's unlikely that they get full complement minutes in a blowout, and so I do think that they're pretty avoidable on the slate. Looking at UC Davis and Washington, UC Davis has got Ty Johnson, who is just going to be a top tier play for this team all season long. He is overpriced, but if you can fit him in, then he can definitely do it. It is a risky situation, but is likely to get blown out here, like some of the other teams against lower level teams. And Washington doesn't have, uh, I mean, they have some good players on them, but it's a little bit tougher for them to blow this game out. I think DeBurl will also have some utility for this team, as will Robinson, who's a dirt cheap play at $3,000 down here. So, but I think UC Davis, if I was going to use anybody, I would use Johnson, and I probably wouldn't use anyone else at this point. Looking at Washington, though, Osabar is going to be a top tier option on the slate. He's going to be the higher expensive option that I think most people will probably draw to because he's got a decent, a good matchup, but he's also capable of having a monster game here. And he should be able to play deeper into the game, I should say. Davis and Mason both also going to get a lot of usage for this team, I think, and I think those guys will be viable contrarian options at the very least. Not must plays, but guys you can fit in the roster if you need that price point. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below.